This is Unit 4 about market competition. Now we are gonna have a talk about a sequential analysis of the market competition which we have covered in the previous video. In the previous video, as you have noticed, that we have covered the features, the characteristics and some important elements of market competition. In this context, now we are going to talk about the other sides of the market competition with a special reference to say merits and demerits. Now let's start with monopoly. Now all of you know what is a monopoly. In the monopoly market, there is one seller and many buyers, right? Before 1991, India experienced a lot many monopolies and oligopolies at the same time. So please take a note of this. It's only after 1991 we have experienced a boom in market competition. So we see monopoly in some of the few units and oligopoly in some units, especially like telecom sector or maybe you can say airline industry. But yeah, in other sectors, probably the service sector and elsewhere, we are seeing monopolistic competition and perfect competition. Now let's first understand what are the merits and demerits of monopoly. See, in monopoly, as you know, that there is one seller and many buyers. So one seller will obviously be in charge of controlling the prices in the market, manipulating the prices in the market because there is no competitor, right? So this leads to the case of black market. So let's discuss the merits of monopoly. The first thing is economies of scale. See guys, you have already seen a video in which I have differentiated between economies of scale and economies of scope. So what happens in the economies of scale is one organization can boost its production activities and specialize in that particular area, which is not the case with scope. So in scope, one particular industry or one particular organization can specialize in production of many units. So in monopoly, economies of scale is deemed to be as an inherent advantage of monopoly. The second is high profit. Since there is no competitor, so there is no competition. The scope of profit increases because there is no competitor. That's what I mean to say. I hope this really makes sense to you. The third is the reward of getting patent and copyrights and intellectual property very easily because you ultimately are the controller of the market equilibriums, or the functions that happen in a market. So I think this is one of the advantage of monopoly. And then government. Yes, now this is a case where a nexus between government and a monopoly market can be found. So this is leading to easier regulation, leading to easier passing of bills, etc., etc., which morally may not be adequate, but I think economically it is principled. Then comes the disadvantage. Now, as you all know that there is only one seller, there is no competitor. So there can be, a kind of a dadagiri. What you can say is kind of blackmailing of pricing, and this leads to creation of black markets. Because if you try to control and regulate all the people all the time, then people will find freedom, So black market emerges as a freedom. So this is considered one of the demerit of monopoly because it controls the economic system. Then comes the incentives. Since there is no competition, so there is no incentive. Incentive matlab motivation, and there is no incentive to innovate, there is no incentive to create, there is no incentive to reproduce because you are a monopolist, so you don't like to make changes, and that's how it functions. And then it also comes in production efficiency. So there is a systematic decline in production efficiency because there is no competitor, there is no innovation, there is no regulation. So you are ultimately control of the market, and this leads to disefficiency. For example, you would have seen that how MTNL, BSNL once upon a time used to be a monopolist in the market, but due to private competition in the telecom market, the monopoly is nowhere to be seen of MTNL and BSNL. The same with Indian Railways. Now they are systematically trying to privatize because it's going in loss. The same with Air India. So these are some important examples of products of the monopoly market. Guys, now the case of oligopoly. In oligopoly, few sellers, many buyers, which means a kind of a groupism, which we see in airline industry today, which we also see in telecom market today. So what happens is in oligopoly, a few people come together and they ensure that there is no new competitor coming in which breaks their friendship or which breaks their fraternity, and they also make sure कि हम लोग में से कोई बाहर भी नहीं जाएंगे. It's better to have a cartelization. That's what oligopoly is about. So what would be the merit of oligopoly? Since there is a groupism, so the profits are shared, the profits are high because there is no other competitor and they are having a profit ratio sharing. So ultimately there is no competitor, no innovation, and that's how they fix the price. So that's one of the merit of oligopoly. Then comes limited choices. See, if there are too many choices, a customer gets confused, isn't it? Like, अरे बाप रे, कौन सा खरीदूं, कितने में खरीदूं? That happens, right? If you are having too many choices. But in the case of oligopoly, there are limited choices, so there is less confusion from the customer's point of view. Information symmetry. Since there is only limited people going on transactions, going on trade, and there are limited choices, so what happens in this case is the information is controlled, the information is regulated, because in market, information symmetry and asymmetry are the biggest problems and the biggest challenges that continue even today. So information symmetry, SYMMETRY. So symmetry matlab structural, organized way of the information flow. Asymmetry is disorganized. Okay, so oligopoly hai, groupism hai, things are organized, so there is no confusion of information. Now come to the demerits. So demerits mein kya hoga? Lesser choices hai, which is also not good, because if there are lesser choices, you lose a scope of your consumption, you lose a scope of valuation, etc, etc. Or lesser choices रहेगा, then you may also not, your utility may get marginal. That's what we study in law of diminishing marginal utility, right guys? And then comes the groupism. Now groupism is always bad, right? Politics hota hai, economics hota hai, and then things get controlled, things get limited, and then corruption happens because of groupism, right? And then since there is no competition, lack of competition, oligopoly, तो competition नहीं रहेगा तो innovation नहीं होगा तो prices नहीं गिरेंगे तो customers will not benefit. So this is one of the demerit of oligopoly. Now guys, let's talk about perfect competition. So perfect competition is a case where the products are homogeneous, matlab same products, no different products. And this is something very ideal situation. This is kind of an utopian situation that does not necessarily exist. Sometimes, somewhere, in some way, it may exist. So in perfect competition, there are many sellers, many buyers. मतलब बहुत सारे competitors भी है, बहुत सारे buyers भी है, but product एक ही तरीके के बेच रहे हैं, right? But वो ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि सब competitors एक ही product बेचे और उसमें वो price कम में बेचे. Technically not possible. But why do we study perfect competition? Is to understand the value of free market, to understand the value of deregulated market. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट अगर ज्यादा मार्केट को रेगुलेट करेगी तो मोनोपोली ओलिगोपोली बिल्ड होएगा, विच इज नॉट गुड फॉर द इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम इन द लॉन्ग रन. सो दैट इज व्हाई परफेक्ट कंपटीशन इज अ सिस्टमैटिक अप्रोच, okay, or you can say a revolution or a transformation from monopoly towards monopolistic competition, which we are gonna cover in the next few minutes. So perfect competition के merits क्या होंगे? The first is competitive prices. Prices बहुत सारे ऊपर नीचे होंगे because there is too much of competition, there are too many sellers. फिर होगा आपका information asymmetry, which is a good thing because अगर information एक ही जगह controlled है, organized है, जो oligopoly में होता था, तो customers के लिए harmful है, right? Because we will not get to know the other side of the story. So what happens in this perfect competition scenario is कि अगर वो इन्फॉर्मेशन डिस्पर्स्ड है, डिसेंट्रलाइज है, अगर लोगों के पास ज्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन है एंड इफ देयर इज अ प्रॉपर फ्लो ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन, then I think the customers will benefit a lot because information is required, right? Information of your pricing, asset valuation, information of costing, information. So there is information about everything, and I think that is what economics is filled with, other than goods and services. Lack of wastage, right? Because पापी पेट का सवाल है, बिजनेस का अच्छे से ध्यान रखना है, कंपटीशन बहुत है, तो ऑब्वियसली रिसोर्सेज को मैं अच्छे से यूज करूंगा. That is called lack of wastage, which is one of the merit of perfect competition. Then comes the demerits. Now demerits ये है कि prices ऊपर नीचे बहुत होंगे because competitors ज्यादा है, सबको अपना प्रोडक्ट बेचना है, सबको अपना लैंडमार्क क्रिएट करना है. So I think that is one of the disadvantage. तो prices fluctuate होंगे तो prices chaotic हो जाते हैं after a period of time. Information asymmetry थोड़ा यहाँ पर harmful भी है. There are always two sides of the same coin. कभी कभार अच्छा भी है क्योंकि हर किसी को इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलेगा तो फिर some people will not make choices based on ignorance or irrationality. In this case अगर information asymmetry है, so what happens is it can be harmful. ज्यादा रहेगा information तो confusion भी ज्यादा रहेगा, isn't it? और कभी कभार wrong information भी spread हो सकता है जो आज के टाइम पे बहुत ज्यादा फैलता है. So Joseph Stiglitz is a very good economist. You can read sometime about him, who has addressed this problem from his economic ideological point of view. Hello guys, now we are gonna talk about monopolistic competition, which is eventually the last stage, or you can say the transformative stage of market competition. The first is monopoly, one seller many buyers, oligopoly, few seller many buyers. Then comes perfect competition, which doesn't exist, many seller many buyers, but the products are homogeneous, matlab similar, no differences. Monopolistic, same like perfect competition, the difference is Products are heterogeneous, matlab differences, no similarity, variations, choices. So the same merits can be calculated, but there is some amendment in this. The first is heterogeneous product. Many seller, many buyers, but people have multiple choices to make. Not every seller is selling the same product. Now they are selling different products at different locations, at different pricing, and there is too much of competition. The prices are falling down. So these are the first and the second important merits of monopolistic competition. कंपटीशन ज़्यादा है तो कॉस्ट गिरना है तो प्राइस गिरना है. इसमें कस्टमर्स benefit. I think in one of the video I have talked about consumer surplus, which is important to understand that how customers also benefit at the same time. फिर गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन कम होगा, राइट? जस्ट लाइक पेरेंट्स, अगर पेरेंट्स आपके साथ ज्यादा इंटरफेयर करेंगे यू वोंट लाइक, राइट? सिमिलरली अ बिजनेसमैन डज नॉट लाइक कि गवर्नमेंट ज्यादा इंटरफेयर करे, रेगुलेट करे, ज्यादा टैक्स करे, बिकॉज इन्फ्लेशन क्रिएट हो जाता है, फिर इकोनॉमिक फ्रीडम चला जाता है, बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज के स्किल स्कोप घट जाते हैं. सो दैट इज व्हाट मोनोपोलिस्टिक कंपटीशन इज ऑलवेज प्रिफरेबल. जितने भी आप अगर एडवांस कंट्रीज देखोगे, जितने भी आप कैपिटलिस्टिक नेशंस देखोगे, वहां पर मोनोपोली से कंपटीशन ज्यादा प्रेफर करते हैं. इंडिया पहले मोनोपोली ओलिगोपोली में था 91 तक. 91 में हमने एलपीजी किया, लिबरलाइजेशन, प्राइवेटाइजेशन, ग्लोबलाइजेशन, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट इंडिया हैज रॉकेटेड इन द पास्ट 25 ईयर्स. इतने फास्टेस्ट रेट पे हम लोग ग्रो हो रहे हैं, अनलेस एंड अनटिल ये लॉकडाउन नहीं आया. बट उसके पहले तक हमारी स्पीड रेट काफी अच्छी थी, हमारी रिकवरी रेट भी काफी अच्छी थी. बिकॉज मार्केट में कंपटीशन आए तो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आए और ज्यादा प्रोडक्ट्स आने लगे, बिकॉज ज्यादा कंपटीशन होने लगा. दैट्स व्हाई नाउअडेज computers, television, smartphones are no more a luxurious product because of monopolistic competition, right? और डीमेरिट्स की बात कर ले तो केओस हो जाता है, कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है, बिकॉज इन्फॉर्मेशन असिमेट्री रहता है, बहुत सारे कंपटीटर्स रहते हैं, तो थोड़ा बहुत केओस होता है, विच इन इकोनॉमिक्स इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज स्पॉन्टेनियस ऑर्डर. वो हम लोग हमारे सिलेबस में पढ़ते नहीं है, बट स्पॉन्टेनियस ऑर्डर इज समथिंग दैट रियली हेल्प्स अ बिजनेस टू ग्रो. लाइक यूनिवर्स, आपने यूनिवर्स देखा है, इट इज नॉट ऑर्गेनाइज, इट इज स्पॉन्टेनियस, विच मीन्स इट इज क्योटिक. ओके, इतना ज्यादा टेक्निकल में घुसने की जरूरत नहीं, बट दिस इज सम फिलोसॉफिकल एंगल टू द स्टोरी. ब्लैक मार्केटिंग, देखो क्या रहता है, कंपटीटर्स ज्यादा रहते हैं तो स्मगलिंग के केसेस भी बढ़ जाते हैं, तो ब्लैक मार्केट क्रिएट होता है. और ब्लैक मार्केट ज्यादातर इज क्रिएटेड बाय द पुअर पीपल बिकॉज दे ऑल्सो वांट टू सर्वाइव इन दिस. सो दैट्स वन ऑफ द थिंग. देन एक और डीमेरिट है, रिटेलर्स largely influence the prices, or you can say the product allocation of the goods and services in a market in a monopolistic scenario. So manufacturers से ज्यादा strong हो जाते हैं retailers. So that's one of the disadvantage. तो उसमें क्या होता है कि जो प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है उसके हाथ पे he does not have the power. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप एमआरपी की बातें कर लो, अभी एमआरपी में क्या होता है कि मैन्युफैक्चरर सेट करता है और रिटेलर को वो बेचना पड़ता है. बट अभी आई थिंक द गवर्नमेंट इज ट्राइंग टू लिबरलाइज द एमआरपी सो दैट कि manufacturer and the retailer do not have any say in that. So customer is the king and let them decide. So I think this is how we grow, and this is how monopolistic competition leads to advancement of economy. I hope you have liked my videos. I hope they were completely engaging. They were really helpful to you because थोड़ा बहुत मैंने सिलेबस में से किया, थोड़ा बहुत मैंने केस स्टडीज के एक्सपीरियंसेस दिए, थोड़े बहुत मैंने प्रैग्मेटिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग भी दी है. सो आई थिंक ऑनलाइन शैप के वजह से ही मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है, and I'm very grateful that this app has really helped me to rejuvenate my own knowledge of economics, and this is one of the best app I have ever used to relearn economics. And thank you for downloading this app, and thank you for being a very good student of this app. And also please apply economics, please tell your friends, your other people to get into online chain app, and this is really a worth app. Thank you.